solved immediately, and it's something that they are willing to pay for at that moment. So that is basically the formula. There's a problem, the problem can be solved with whatever you're offering, and people are willing to pay for it immediately. But the reason why people build startups is because the good ones, it's because they are motivated by a certain why. Like, I need to fix this problem. Especially when we think about edtech entrepreneurs who are building because kids can't access schools, can't access school labs. That's sciencey, for example. Companies that notice that farmers keep losing money because they don't know what the latest rainfall patterns look like. Companies that want to help farmers basically take care of their livestock, like Cow Tribe, they offer vaccines here in Ghana, and Agro Center, they connect farmers to markets. So they've noticed that there's a problem, they've grown up with this problem, and they are motivated to solve it. So those are the startups that last the long stretch. Because unfortunately, like you said, you can go years and years and years building, but nothing happens. But when you have that motivation, then that is what sustains you even before financing comes. The other reason is that when you decide to build a startup, you need to ask yourself what's there right now, as in what is already in the market, how are people solving this problem, what are the solutions that are already enabling people to sort of go around this problem. We call it hacking. And then who do I need? Like, what team? You can try and do it by yourself, but it's always much better to try and find co-founders to work with. That's because there are gonna be tough days when you have to do everything, and when you have someone or people that you are working with, it's easier because you can brainstorm off each other. The other reason that a lot of startups often don't do, and which actually just cancels them out even when they apply for competitions, is domain experience. So if you're looking to solve a problem in the logistics sector, do you have logistics experience? If you don't have logistics experience, then find the co-founder who has got logistics experience. You're looking to solve a problem in aviation. I'm noticing that kids are afraid when parents go with kids to the airport. Parents have a hard time. Do you know anyone who's worked at the airport? Do you think maybe you could benefit from working with that person? So startups sometimes build for products that they don't have domain experience in, or technologies that please excuse
What if,
technologies that they have never used before. For
sorry, can I
example,
stop you 2 seconds?
someone.
Can I quick just ask something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're speaking about domain experience.
Mm-hmm.
Would it qualify a startup if, let's say, I don't have the domain experience, but I then let's say I create a board or put an advisor with that sort of experience, but they're not in the
Yes,
day-to-day running, would that then qualify me?
it does qualify you, but how much time is this person available to you? What it does is that it slows you, what I can say, your realization points of
Mm-hmm.
how the problem is connected and where exactly you are going to come in. You
Mm-hmm.
can have a board advisor, but because they are not involved in the daily running of the operations, they are not running at the same time as you. So they are not realizing, and the problem is not evolving in their minds at the same time as it is evolving with your team. So it takes much more time for you to find product market fit. That's basically where I'm going. That for you to understand the market you're solving for, and for you to build a product that aligns with the immediate need of that market, such that your customer wants to pay you money immediately for that. It takes a bit of time because you don't have that domain experience. You've got market research to do, you've got validations, you've got different hypotheses, you're going to iterate many times.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is once you've figured out why you need to solve this problem, once you've understood what's there right now already in the market, is it solving all the problems? If it's not, where can I come in? And then you figure out who do you need on your team. You find the individual domain experience, you find your advisors, you put together a board. Then it becomes, what am I going to do about it? So for startups that are tech enabled, sometimes people think that you have to start off with a very big, like a machine learning system already, but it doesn't happen that way. You have to build data. You have to build. So you can start with something very simple, which we call a minimum viable product, an MVP. So you can always so what it becomes is what is the minimum viable product of what I'm trying to build, which is basically what is the minimum thing that I can build that is going to immediately deliver relief or a solution or hope to your customer that you are building in the direction that they actually want to go. Then from there, you need to find engagement. And the point of engagement can be your social media channels, it can be an email list, it can be webinars, it can be events. But once you have that minimum viable product, you have to find a way to keep on getting data from your clients. And then the last point becomes how much money do I need to build this? Because building a startup is very, very difficult. If you want to move faster and get results faster, most of the times you commit to it fully, and that means you are going without salary for sometimes years, a long stretch. If you have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of people have burnt out and quit because the money was not coming yet. So it's not a quick get rich scheme unless you're running a financial Ponzi scheme. Then you should know, like, in about 3 months you get your money back. So yeah, I hope I've answered your question.
No, great. Thanks, Eda. Just to take you back a bit in terms of finding the why. I mean, it's always very easy to say, look, you have to find why. You have to. How does one actually, navigate that issue to really find why? I mean, you give a good example of saying you have to find, what others are currently doing to solve the problem, and then you find a way of solving that problem in a way that people are willing to pay for, and that actually does it efficiently, and so that you get repeat business and you are able to get customers. But getting to that position of actually saying, look, I found the right problem to solve, which people are willing to pay for. How do you get around trying to find that actual problem?
So I'll start with, I think you've got about two questions in there. The first one is, how do I find my why? And the second one is, how do I get my customers to pay for my product? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I'll start with finding your why. This one, even after we've had this conversation, if you can go on YouTube, there's a TED talk called Finding Your Why. I'm not sure who did it. Yeah, there's a TED talk called Finding Your Why. You can also watch that one. But
Yeah, I think by Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek, I think it
exactly,
is.
it's by Stephen Sinek. Yes, yes. I think that finding your why is something that is intrinsic. It's internal. It's like how can I best explain it? I'm trying to look for a company that has done this very well. I'm sure you heard about Paystack in Nigeria. They were just
Yes, it's
acquired.
Paystack.
They just acquired by Stripe for $200 million. So those
Mhm.
founders, they came upon their why because at the time they lived in Nigeria. Yes, they lived in Nigeria, and then they were having a hard time paying for stuff online, and they were engineers, and they were just like, what if I could pay for things with my card. Like, this is so hard. Why do I have to have such a hard time in paying online for things, or making sure that I can receive payments online? Because Nigerian financial regulations are very, very extensive and restrictive because of the financial challenges that are caused by yes, I'm forgetting what the real name is, that one. So that was their why. Their why became, how do I enable, first of all, myself to be able to receive and pay, to be able to pay for transactions online, and to be able to receive payments for my services or my products online. And that's their business. Now, Paystack makes money every single time someone buys something. When you use their API, they make a little bit they make a little bit off of that. Every time someone uses their API to make a payment for something on your site, they help e-commerce companies. They make a little bit of money. That's one
Mhm.
example. The
Okay.
second example of a company that's found their why is CowTribe. Now, I mentioned this company again because I actually know her, and her story was personal. She grew up as a farmer's daughter. They owned cows and everything. You know, she was living in the rural areas with her family. And every time around the rainy season, you know, for the rainy season, it's really dangerous for cows. You need to vaccinate them. Yeah, you need to get them a lot of vitamins just so that they can survive the rainy season. So she used to, and there were not enough agriculture extension officers that were working around. So farmers would wait for these people so that they could get information. But every season they would lose their cows, and it became normal that they would lose their cows. Now that's an abnormal situation. She grew up.
Mhm.
She met up with her co-founder. Co-founder also grew up herding cows, and both of them were like, it's abnormal. It's not right that our parents should expect to lose cows every season. Why can't we
Mm.
make sure they get the vaccination information when they need it, as and when they need it? And that's how CowTribe was born. And the minimum viable product for them was just to make sure that agri-tax officers visit farmers and give them information. They did not
Mm.
need machine learning. They did not need artificial intelligence. They just got agriculture extension officers to visit farmers and share that information. Then they built
Mm.
the product, SMS USD. Then they built the website. Then they built the web app product. Now they have built another product where farmers can buy this marketplace of drugs for animals, like a vet pharmacy. So their why was the fact that they had grown up and just been seeing this happening, and they're like, "This is not right. I want to change it." The
Mm.
last example that I'll give, which is much closer to home, is the science. They just won 6 stars Harare, and
Mm.
they are teachers, science teachers. When they were deployed to when they were deployed to the rural areas in Blawayo to teach there, they arrived there and they were thinking, we're going to be teaching students who understand what I mean when I start to talk about atoms and molecules. But these students had never been anywhere outside 50 kilometers outside of their communities. They had no idea of anything that they were talking about. They were so uninspired that it broke their hearts. So with their savings and their salary, they actually bought the first virtual reality, head kit, and that is what they started using to be able to show their students different places like Matopos, Victoria Falls, Johannesburg. Sorry, not Johannesburg. The solar system, and even and students started to become inspired. So that
Mhm.
was their why. They looked around them. They saw their students were not getting the same level of science education that students in the urban areas were getting, and they decided to do something about it. So that's your why. Your why is intrinsic. It comes to
Mm.
you. That's why people who create problems or who are not solving a real problem. That's why they don't go far, because they don't connect personally with the problem. When you connect personally with the problem, you have a greater chance of success, because when you go to sleep at night, you then understand why things have to change. And then
Yeah.
the next question you had was, can you please just remind me?
Okay, so the next question was really around how to get to, after finding this problem to solve. Obviously, I think you are answering it in a way, because once you find a problem worth solving, then people will pay. So I was really now trying to figure out how you get this sort of business to now grow and grow in a big way, because in a way, if you don't find the big problem that's worth solving, you're not going to make any money. But if you find the right problem which everyone is having and which everyone wants solved in a good way, you'll get paid. So I think it's answered in that sense.
Okay, okay. So now we are going on to after I've identified my problem, how do I grow? How do I add value?
Mhm.
Okay. So I've got about yeah, I've got about 6 points. So I'll go through the first one. So the first one is that once you have identified your customer, even just one customer, you should thank God, because it means that there is someone else out there and another person who is going through the same problem. So your challenge now becomes, how do I find these people and how do I ensure that I am solving for these people at a price that they can afford, which is why I mentioned earlier that when you found your why and you say to yourself, I want to solve this problem, it's important for you to now do the market research to find out what are your competitors doing. Netflix in the past it says that their biggest competitor is sleep. Do you get that, right?
Yeah.
Because the more time you spend watching Netflix, the more money they make. So when you go to sleep, that's their competition. So the first idea is you have to build a community actively. And it depends. Sometimes social media isn't always the answer, especially if your customer is not really to be found on social media, but most probably they are to be found at out in the fields or at a construction site or at a union. So you have to build a community, and you have to build a community where your customers are. When you think community, don't just think Facebook group. Sometimes building a community is building a WhatsApp, and everyone is on WhatsApp. Building a WhatsApp group, so you find your first client, they're enthusiastic about what you're solving. You say, I can do it at this price. And in the first few days, you have to be very flexible about how much you're offering until you hit a price that everyone is comfortable with and which can sustain your operations. So build a community. If you have to go on social media, I advise that you start with one channel. This is so that you don't split your audience. You keep all your numbers in one place, and then if you see that there's traction in other channels, you go in that direction. So if you start on Facebook, you start on Twitter, or you start on Instagram, it all depends on how informational or how visual your product is, and then you Google what other people in the same space that you are in are doing. There's nothing new under the sun. So you just then figure out this is the most successful channel. Like for example, if you Google best channel to advertise agricultural products, best channel to advertise educational products, best channel to advertise IT services, you get the drift where I'm going. Yeah. And then the other way of building a community is to also build an email list. So email is great because everyone, just like WhatsApp, almost everyone has an email address now. Email is really, really great. At my company, we run a weekly newsletter. And our weekly newsletter just basically shares the latest. So we are a logistics tech startup. So what our customers and our clients want to know is they want to know about exhibitions that are coming up. They want to know about the latest news that affects their business as importers and exporters. They also want to know about anything new services that we're offering. So our email list is 80% value to them and 20% what we are offering. Do you understand that part? 80%,
Yeah, yeah.
80% value to them. And that's the way your social media should go. 80% value to the customer and 20% of you selling. That's the rule. That's how you keep them engaged. Because what that means is that you start to condition them to understand that every time they come on your page, they're going to find something useful for them. They're not just going to find you trying to sell your products. Once in a while, you post something, and then they'll pay attention because they're already engaged when they are reading through your content. So identify what could be of value to your client and then put that together now. That is now the email newsletter that you send out every week. Email newsletters are so easy to do on MailChimp. You collect emails when someone says they're interested or they like your product. Can I please have your email address? I might put together some information that I'll send out every week. Would you mind if I send that out to you? Sure. Put them in your newsletter. And of course, at the end, just say, please share or invite a friend if you're interested. Then you add an invite link. So any questions about this one before I move on to the next point?
Uh, I was gonna about the newsletter. Did you iterate a few times and change how you communicated, or you just thought of the newsletter from the get-go? How did you reach that point?
Okay.
Was there a lot of trial and error?
Okay, good question. Good question. So in my case, I found an existing newsletter, but when it comes to the structure of a good newsletter, if you Google how to structure a good newsletter or how to structure a newsletter that converts, you get then you get really, really good points. But the structure of a good newsletter is value for the client. We know that our clients, they get sales every time they visit a trade show or an exhibition. So we let them know where the exhibitions are. We also know that they want to know the latest of what's going on in the industry. So we give them that information as well. I think it's got about 5 pieces of content, about 3 images, such that like you can scroll it in one sitting. It's not very long. It's also very short as well. So that's the trick as well. Make it very short. Too long and people they get bored.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I guess I'm gonna go somewhere else. Which yes, logistics, yeah? How has COVID-19, I mean, made your business? So what has been the response like now that with the COVID-19 and all the lockdowns? Have you seen your business grow exponentially, or what's happened?
It's definitely grown exponentially, like very fast, because more than ever, people need to get important things where they are needed. People need to move food, they need to move medicines. At some point, they needed to move PPE very, very fast. So, because we take away the stress of looking for quotes, I want to move 100 kgs of maybe yam from Ghana to South Africa. We take out the stress of calling different freight forwarders out of that. So it makes things very, very easy for clients knowing that they can get a direct quote and our prices more match what is in the market. So because of that, our convenience, the business has grown. So yeah, things are good, things are going well.
Okay, and how do you see that continuing? Were you guys primed for that growth, or you were never expecting it, or you felt like as soon as it hit you already? Because some companies, what we found, they were never ready for it, and then those who, when it came, they just took off like Zoom. I guess Zoom is a good example, but that's no
Mm,
longer a startup.
okay. So you remember what I said about domain experience? So our COO is actually a former top manager at Maersk. You know Maersk? Is it Maersk?
Yes, the AP
Yes.
Moller mask. The
Yes.
from where?
Okay, come to remember AP Moller Maersk.
Yeah, what
Yes.
are they? They're European. I forgot Danish. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
German, yeah. So he's actually a former top manager there. So he knows the ins and outs of logistics. So
Okay.
having a yes. So we were more or less ready when COVID hit, and it was just not smooth sailing.
But it was much easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So which startups from Zimbabwe have you looked at and seen that you think are doing very well?
Hmm. Okay.
Give me
So
two.
Farmart is doing well, and I don't know if is Fresh in a Box a startup.
Yeah, Fresh in the Box is a startup. I
Fresh in
think
a Box, I think they have figured out the logistics of their operation. And I think he made a very smart move by choosing to buy a farm, because now he is going to handle the supply. He's going to control a lot of his operational costs. So I thought that was when he did that, I was like, that's very, very smart. He's going to
mm,
save a lot of money, and gain more revenue. Another company as well that a startup that I've seen is doing really great. Uh, Zimbabwean companies. Okay, I've mentioned science too many times over.
you mentioned which one?
You farm left. They are no longer in Zimbabwe. They are now in South Africa.
Yeah,
So
but it's
yeah,
still Zimbabwean. We still claim it.
yes, of course.
Still Zimbabwean. Still Zimbabwean. So
Yeah.
you can speak about you farm as well. Fresh in a box. Fresh in a box is a bit tricky for me because Kuda is so popular by himself that you don't always know what's happening underneath because he has such a presence on social media. So you're not sure how well it's doing. I'm just saying because compared to all the others, Kuda, like, he understands social media. He's on top of it. I mean, probably he's in the top 10 Zimbabweans on Twitter, I'd say, or top 20 if you want, who's not a politician. So he's got that game on lock so well that you wouldn't even be sure. So it's just very interesting to see to hear what other people are seeing, especially given that you're outside of the country. So it's interesting to see what you think. And on your side of the world in West Africa, which ones would you say are doing very well?
Okay. So
Can't say Paystack.
yeah, you can't say face that. Let's say, wow. There's a startup called Approve. They do facial recognition for Africans. So they help banks onboard like clients.
What happened?